We didn't hear Josue's trade deadline thoughts. What were your thoughts from yesterday?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what do you got,
Joe? I love it. I mean, listen, 2 second-round picks, Jeff Teague. Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, the biggest if is what's going to happen during the offseason. But, I mean, for his skill set, for someone like Evan Fournier, the way he's going to match in this team, and, you know, Danny Ainge, what he has, obviously he's crazy about it. I think there's a good chance he signs. I mean, I know it's so early to say that, but I just think the Celtics are in a position to appease someone like him, right? Who's been in Orlando his whole career. Obviously, he's had great seasons prior to this one. This has been his best one, and you put him in this situation to be on a winning team and be one of the key pieces, whether it's right off the bench or one of the guys that's going to get a lot of open looks. I think he's thrilled about that. You know, what's he have, like 78 threes on the season, and you know, Jason Tatum, all the stuff we were saying at the beginning of the show. Tatum, Brown, those are the kind of scorers that Fournier is just going to love. You know, why Aaron Gordon or other key pieces of that team, right? They couldn't necessarily always put the ball on the floor and score the way these guys can. And I think that alone is going to just open things up a lot for Evan Fournier here. So I'm excited about it. Again, not a first-round pick in there. You didn't throw in Neesmith. You didn't throw in, one of the guys that we're still trying to wait and see.
Unfortunately.
If they're going to pop or not. Unfortunately, see, exactly. So, I mean, I like it more because of that. No first-round picks, no Neesmith. You know, it's a gamble, but I think it's a gamble well worth it. I mean, the Celtics are in this position right now. You have to take gambles.
Thoughts on Luke Kornet?
Perk's really excited about it. That's most of the scouting report I got up to this point. But yeah, I mean, it's about Fournier. Obviously, that's a big grab right now.
I've had to remind myself what that guy's name is like 7 times over the last day or so. I had to hop back and Google.
Well, because if they get Drummond, Luke. I mean, that's
the
real question. So, I don't know if people have really thought this through.
That's just like Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague's out there. Find a new home. You just got to find a new location. Fournier, though, this is interesting. This is interesting on Fournier. I've always known him as a pull-up guy, and it's true. He's 41% on pull-up threes, 36% on catch and shoot. So that is going to be a tricky line that they walk with him. How much on the ball is he going to be versus how much off the ball? Because there obviously are quite a few guys in front of him on the roster who are ball dominant, who need their ball time. So there's really not going to be a ton for him. We've talked about should he start, should he be that second unit guy. It almost does kind of seem like he might be like the perfect 6th man for this team.
I love how people are bringing up, or at least Scal did, or other people have too, the whole Isaiah Thomas thing. Oh, no, we didn't know when Isaiah came. Oh, yeah, he really helped this team off the bench. And then, of course, look what happened. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but to a certain extent, I can see that happening for sure.
Yeah. He's going to be Isaiah.
I don't think he's going to be putting up 29 a game like Isaiah did, but, you know.
He's going to be Isaiah. Mo Wagner's going to be Jonas Jerebko. And our guy Luke.
I'll take it. Jonas.
He's going to be Luigi Datome. It's going to be the same thing as 15.
Oh, there's only one Luigi Datome.
Jerebko, he was really cooking right before he got traded too. So
that's what I think when I see Wagner. I'm like, this guy's got nothing. But when Jerebko came over, I remember distinctly, I'm like, this guy's not going to do anything for them. And then he ended up becoming a real rotation guy. I don't know what to think about Wagner. The numbers are horrifying, but who knows?
No. We got into Jerebko talk. John's not having it. He's mad.
No, I mean, let's not talk about. We're sitting here trying to talk about finding minutes for Drummond and Rob and Tristan. Like, let's not talk about Wagner.
I like what I saw Wagner tonight. Little hustle during the quarter 3. Took a shot to the face.
I liked when he took it to the rim and missed a layup. That was actually seeing him put the ball on the floor like that. But that was a pretty good drive.
The spin move, yeah, that was. Yes,
I wonder if he can play some 4.
I didn't think he had that.
Slapped Grant's butt.
I don't think he thought he had that either.
Already.
He was surprised when he got there.
He was like, "Oh, I almost made that."
Whoa, what am I doing here?
All right. He kind of had like a smirk, like, "All right, I like it."
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just glad they gave this team a chance. And that's really what they have here.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Wagner, Luke. What's his last name?
Kornet.
Kornet. Yeah. They don't matter. But Fournier in particular gives this team a chance. It costs nothing. I know you want to tank, John, which I still don't see the reason.
I don't want to tank. If they happened to just lose enough games to fall out of the playoffs, I don't think it'd be the worst thing.
That's the same thing.
Right. Sound like the worst
thing.
Tanking is deliberate.
Tank is deliberate. Tank is trade away all the good players so the players who are left can't possibly win. That's tanking. Okay.
No, but I thought you meant no. I don't think he meant. Bob, you didn't mean John wants to see the team blown up. I thought you meant you wanted to see them start benching guys.
He just wants them to fall into the lottery, which like how much would they gain?
Which is what Bobby wanted
Shut
for the
down
last 2 months.
Tatum,
Well, no, I said go one of two ways: improve or do that, and they improve.
So you guys just want to go
off. You wanted to sell. I don't think selling was the right play. But that's the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what I said is this: they're not going to tank, and they're not going to win the title, so they're going to end up in the playoffs most likely, and they'll lose in the first or second round, most likely. But if they can at least play with some passion, play with some heart, I think a lot of fans will at least pull less of their hair out for the remainder of the season.
Jimmy, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. It's been excruciating. We've done this post-game show every single night. Obviously, we started last year when they came into the bubble, and we've been doing this. I mean, we have not taken a night off. So it's exhausting talking about losing. The team win one, lose one, win one, lose one, or in the case of this team, lose way more than they've won since their 8-3 start. It's exhausting. It's depressing. It's demoralizing. We follow this team. You want to see them. We would much rather watch them play well and have something to talk about instead of the, one up, one down, one up, one down. So yeah, and you're right. The effect, the psychological effect it has on guys like Tatum and Brown and sulking and this and that. And Ainge said it in his presser today, 8:30 a.m. Bobby didn't get up in time for it, but I answered the bell. I answered the bell, so I was in there.
We're all on that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. schedule, right? So
I told you guys, you between 3 and 6. That's the only time you can.
3 to 6 now. Oh,
I missed
2 to 6.
I missed the part. I missed the part where John asked Danny. Danny, would it be the worst thing if you just slid outside the playoffs? Would that be the worst?
So Danny, what are you doing?
I love the beginning of it too. Like he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I think it was Corrales. He's, "Good morning, John. How are you feeling?" He's like, "I slept, so I'm feeling good."
Yeah, exactly.
That's Danny. All right, I'm good.
We all came on here. Real quick. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. The point being is,
what were you gonna say?
I'm going to give Bobby credit here because the thing that he said was what Bobby was saying, which was the reason Bobby's main point of why they had to do something was you can't do it to these guys, and that was our reasoning for not tanking. You couldn't sell pieces off. That would look bad. But Bobby's point of improving whether or not you can get deep into the playoffs because you can't do it to these guys, that was actually whether or not it's entirely true and the entire reason why Ainge did it. That's what he said was the impetus for making this trade was I felt we were down and we needed something, and I didn't necessarily want to trade this year for a theoretical rental player like Fournier is in a contract year, but I felt I had to do it because I had to give those guys something in that room because I felt like we were sagging. So if that's true and if that's the real deal, Bobby, you were saying that like you got to do something for these guys because eventually, like if they keep going out there,
it's gonna explode like a bomb.
They're gonna get bummed out. So
that was good for Danny.
Well, they already were. I mean,
yeah.
I was calling them the Boo-Hoo brothers, Tatum and Brown. I mean, you ever seen two more miserable like guys out in the court?
Because they were getting the blame. Their GM was coming down on them. Their play-by-play guy was coming down on them. And everyone
and Paul Pierce had a lot more fun than those two. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and they sucked.
And Twan got all the blame. Remember that? Twan used to get all the blame.
Twan's like, what? I can't hear you over this three.
Yeah.
But Brown and Tatum.
Poor
credit to these guys. They've eaten a lot this year, and I know they haven't been the best. We've called them out at times. But they go to 2 Eastern Conference Finals in 3 years, carry this team through both those runs, And then they come out here with Semi Ojeleye and Grant and Theis, and just those are like their fourth best players on the team, and Thompson's just slouching. And because of all of that, they're going to get called out as, not being good enough, not having what it takes to be all-stars, high-level players. And that it even continued late into this week. Oh, you might have to trade one of these guys. No, what they needed was a little bit of support and a real roster around them. This roster coming into the year was a joke. And I know you guys made the argument that you should have held up for something better with the TPE. But Zarin knows this. The team knows this. There really isn't like a golden egg in the offseason that would have been a perfect 28. It kills to use 17 of it, but they got a really good player for nothing. So you take that. That was the TPE. Like, you get a really good player for nothing.
I know. It's less that, Bob. Go ahead, Josue.
Well, no, that's exactly what right before we sign off, right before the deadline, right? Or the last post game show we had. We went around the table and we all predicted what was going to happen. I said, look,
nothing.
If it's a guy off the bench, a low guy, someone that can just be effective, a rotation player, then that's a win, because that could be what this team is missing. Not that it's going to put them right up there with the Brooklyn Nets, but it could spark everyone. It could bring enthusiasm. We saw the energy. We saw the difference, tonight against the Bucks. But to what Bobby just said, I just want to make it clear too that we're also going to hold these two responsible if this doesn't pan out, right? Like, if Fournier doesn't work out, if this doesn't translate into wins, it's completely accurate or appropriate, I should say, for us to say, well, what's going on now? What's the problem now with Tatum and Brown, right? Before, the team around them, they don't have enough weapons. All right, well, you got a 20-point scorer. He can knock down three-pointers. He doesn't need the ball in his hands to be dominant, So let's see what happens. And then on the other end of that, we can say, okay, that was the missing piece. Or we can say, all right, well, what's the problem now, right? So how good is this team? Bobby, you say that now the pieces are there. All right, well, let's see what happens. Because if this team is a first-round knockout, like John talked about at the beginning of the show, or is bounced out in the second round because they run into the Bucks or the 76ers, a lot of people are going to be upset into thinking or get upset and saying, oh, well, Danny could have went for the big fish. Why didn't he get Vucevic? Why is Marcus still here? That's going to be a conversation. That's going to be the narrative.
So how do you feel about that one? That
they didn't get out early in the postseason.
How do you feel about that one? That they didn't get Vucevic, that they didn't get Gordon. They weren't willing to extend themselves for something like that, it seems.
We talked about it before the deadline. Does either one of those players make this team, way better than the Nets? Does that make them right up there in the NBA Finals right away? No. If that's the answer, then you hold on to Marcus and let's see what happens in the offseason. See if there's another, perennial all-star or someone of that caliber that you can reel in here.
Here's the problem, and this is the problem with where they are. It's not that Fournier doesn't make them better now. It's not that you don't know what you could have done with the TP in the offseason. It's that to re-sign Fournier, to re-sign Smart, to extend Rob, to have Tatum's contract kick in, you're flying into the tax and you're going to have an insanely expensive team that is not championship caliber. And so you're spending crazy amounts of money on this team, which is still not at the level that can compete for a title, and with very little opportunity to improve them unless you hit a home run in the draft or somebody develops in ways that you don't see coming. So this is your roster, and it's expensive, and you're in the tax, and you are very, very limited in how you can improve it, largely because you've got the Kemba situation and him for a couple more years eating that $37 million. And it is where you are. It's money well spent on Tatum and Brown. For sure, you need that. But like I said, is the only way you're going to stay competitive is if you retain all of your pieces. You have to retain Marcus. You have to retain Fournier. You have to extend Rob. And so once you do that, you are an insanely expensive team. Insanely expensive.
That Smart one is still the one I really labor over too, because I fully understood the people who said you lose your point guard, you lose your heart and soul, all that stuff. But just from a strictly roster management perspective into the future, there's a real case for doing. I don't know if I could have got it done because Denver did ratchet up the offer and we talked about that. But if and Ainge said today, Smart wasn't on the table. It was completely made up. And I believe that. That was probably Orlando really pushing for him. If they had the chance to do Smart for Gordon and then pull in Fournier and Gordon, so you get a 2-for-1 sort of here, depending on how he does in Denver, that could be a tough one to live down because I think Gordon could have been a really nice upside piece into the future for this
And
team.
you can't sign and trade, is that right?
Yeah. No, the ways to improve in this offseason aren't great. It's essentially going to be keep this group together.
You have to run it back. This team, as they finish this year, is your team at best next year.
Not to mention,
and that's it.
They'll probably have to use this year's pick to dump Thompson. So that's like another thing they could have done here,
which is
that they're just going to end up wasting down the line.
Yeah. I know. It's, again, the Thompson thing, and again, this is what kills you now. Not only is Thompson superfluous, but Thompson's the reason you were hard capped this year, which is the reason you ended up having to dump Theis, and now is a reason why you might have to use assets to move him out next year.
Just to get him out, right?
The same way you did with Cantor. So please take our guys and take our picks. You know, like
I'll staple a first-round pick to it. Come on, take him.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you.
And so you don't want it to cost Smart too. What you mentioned, John, if they were going to do all this now, it would have cost Smart on top of all of that. But at some point, you have to cash in for Smart, because I think the day is coming where his value is going to start sliding.
Well, they're in a
that contract. That's your most tradable contract. You know, it's right there. You know, it's easy to match deals. And you still have a little TPE left. I mean, I don't think they'll trade Marcus.
They're in a tricky spot. And so
here's the other factor.
I might have traded him.
See, that's the thing. I was just going to say, I don't think they would trade him during the offseason, but when you're in a tricky spot, that's when the weird trades happen in the NBA. You know, we've seen this before.
I hate this possibility too, but that scenario we just played out there, if you can't dump Thompson, would have put them in the tax. So maybe you ratchet up the offer to get rid of Thompson in that spot, like maybe give up some more picks and pull Gordon in here just because it's for the good of the team long term.